All right. So just starting to tap, and we spoke a minute ago about you can't watch things like sacrificing like the Vikings did. And when you just sort of imagine that or picture it, what sort of reaction do you have in your body?
It's a huge thumping of the heart.
Okay. Yeah. And you remember actually seeing a scene in like a Vikings movie, and you just had to look away and you put
Yeah, I
your
have to close my eyes and put my hands over my ears so I can't hear or see what's
yeah.
happening.
Okay. Even though when I imagine the start of that scene,
Even though when I imagine the start of that scene,
I have to close my eyes and put my hands over my ears,
I have to close my eyes and put my hands over my ears,
and I feel my heart racing,
and I feel my heart racing,
and I don't want to witness it or hear it or see it.
and I don't want to witness it or hear it or see it.
I ask my guides and higher self
I ask my guides and my higher self
and all pieces and parts of my body
and all pieces and parts of my body
to help me process and release this reaction
to help me process and release this reaction
all the way back to its origin when I first felt it,
all the way back to its origin when I first felt it,
as it no longer serves me now.
as it no longer serves me now.
Asking the quantum layers of my DNA that remember all my lifetimes,
Asking the quantum layers of my DNA that remember all of my lifetimes,
when have I felt this feeling,
when have I felt this feeling,
this heart racing feeling
this heart racing feeling
around human sacrifice,
around human sacrifice,
like in the Viking days?
like in the Viking days.
I wonder if I have experienced or seen that.
Not Viking, Christian days.
Christian days.
Yeah,
Mhm. What's coming up? Tell me about it.
pagan, pagan Christian days.
Hmm.
Way back when they sacrificed humans for their crops.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you imagine witnessing it? Someone loved.
Yeah, not sure whether I witnessed it or whether it was me.
Or someone you loved.
Yeah, might have been someone I loved. Not
Hmm.
sure. Definitely saw it.
Hmm. Yeah. I imagine seeing it
I imagine seeing it
back in Christian pagan days.
back in Christian pagan days. It's an old village. I can see a really old village with crops and just like fields of crops and
Hmm. Yep.
yeah,
We
with a little
relied on our crops.
we relied on our crops.
Our crops were the life of our village.
Crops were the life of the village.
And we had a spiritual practice of sacrificing to the gods for the crops.
We had a spiritual practice of sacrificing to the gods for the crops. Yeah, they had disease that year.
Hmm.
It was a disease of the crops. So they're sacrificing to get the blessing of the gods again.
Hmm. And I remember seeing someone I loved
And I remember seeing someone that I love
being sacrificed.
being sacrificed.
I remember the horror of seeing it.
I remember the horror of seeing it.
I remember feeling the conflict,
I remember feeling the conflict,
that it was for the good of the crops and the village.
that it was for the good of the crops in the village.
It was for our spiritual beliefs.
It was for our spiritual beliefs.
But I felt the human pain of it all.
I felt the human pain of it all.
This was someone I loved that I had to sacrifice.
This was someone I loved that I had to sacrifice. Yeah.
And I still feel my heart racing when I think of it.
I still feel my heart racing when I think of it.
The pain of losing someone I love.
Pain of losing someone I love
To please the gods.
to please the gods.
Our crops had disease.
Our crops had disease.
the spiritual beliefs of the spiritual ones of the village,
spiritual beliefs of the spiritual ones of the village,
my spiritual beliefs.
my spiritual beliefs.
Perhaps I was doubting them.
Perhaps I was doubting them. I was doubting them after that
Mhm. Because of the human cost to me.
because of the human cost to me.
I was losing someone I loved,
I was losing someone that I loved,
and I doubted my spiritual beliefs after that.
and I doubted my spiritual beliefs after that.
I can still feel the pain of seeing and losing someone I loved.
I can still see the pain of seeing, I can still feel the pain of seeing someone losing someone that I loved.
That heart racing feeling
That heart racing feeling
connected to sacrifice.
connected to sacrifice.
These remaining feelings in my body,
These remaining feelings in my body,
I thank my body for holding on to them,
thank my body for holding on to them
to protect me in some way,
to protect me in some way.
but it no longer serves me now in this lifetime.
It no longer serves me now in this lifetime.
My spiritual beliefs have changed and grown,
Spiritual beliefs have changed and grown.
and I acknowledge that that lifetime had its own learning and lessons for me.
And I acknowledge that that lifetime had its own learning and lessons for me.
But I no longer need to sacrifice things I love for my spirituality.
I no longer need to sacrifice things that I love for my spiritual journey and learning.
My spirituality is based at a higher vibration now.
My spiritual journey. Sorry, what was that one?
My spiritual vibration
vibration
and learning
and learning
is at a higher vibration now.
is at a higher vibration now.
And I no longer need to connect sacrifice and pain with spirituality.
And I no longer need to collect sacrifice and pain with spirituality.
It was appropriate at the time of our spiritual learning and knowledge.
Was appropriate at the time for our spiritual
Learning and knowledge.
knowledge,
But it's not appropriate now.
but it's not appropriate now.
And I honor my spiritual journey over the lifetimes.
And I honor my spiritual journey over the lifetimes.
My soul set up that whole scenario for my learning.
My soul set up that whole scenario for my learning,
as did my loved one.
as did my loved one.
It was our soul choice and agreement.
It was our soul choice and agreement.
And I honor that by releasing the reaction in my body.
And I honor that by releasing the reaction in my body.
It was appropriate for my higher learning and lesson in that lifetime.
It was appropriate for my high learning and lesson in that lifetime.
And I release my heart racing reaction in my body now.
And I release my heart racing reaction in my body now.
My spiritual journey has grown since then.
My spiritual journey has grown since then.
I no longer need to sacrifice me or my loved ones for my spirituality.
I no longer need to sacrifice me or my loved ones for my spiritual journey
or for my success,
or for my success,
for my growth.
for my growth.
I no longer rely on diseased crops
I no longer rely on diseased crops
and sacrifices to fix them.
and sacrifices to fix them.
My spiritual knowledge has grown since then.
My spiritual knowledge has grown since then.
And when I look back on that scene,
And when I look back on that scene,
I feel the appropriateness of it for then.
I feel the appropriateness for it then.
in the spiritual scheme of things,
in the spiritual scheme of things,
as part of my soul's journey and learning.
as part of my soul's journey and learning.
And I release the emotional reaction to it.
And I release the emotional reaction to it
Out of my body now
out of my body now
and then.
and then.
Mhm. So when you focus on that now, that
It's just a scene. It's I'm just watching it.
mhm,
I'm not actually there. I'm just watching it now.
mhm. And if
Yeah.
you imagined watching, a Viking series where they are sacrificing a human being, how does that feel when you
And
imagine?
if I imagine watching a sacrifice now, I'm going to test this, but I think I could actually watch it. I
Mhm.
don't think I will feel that real heart beating sort of can't do
Visceral
this.
reaction.
Yeah, it doesn't have any sort of feeling to it. It's just like, oh, it's just a scene in a movie.
Yeah,
But I'm going to test it after this.
good, good.
And
That's
see.
good. Let us know how it goes. And
I
also
will.
imagining that, that this is part of the honoring and appropriateness of their soul's journey, and what they wrote down they would do as a soul to experience as a human being for their own higher learning and lesson. And when you see it from that bigger picture
Yeah,
and don't have it landing or reacting, it's completely different.
it is.
There's an honoring of it.
Yeah. It was my brother or my uncle. That was the feeling of who was sacrificed. I can't sit on who it was because I think they've been both in other lifetimes, a brother
Yeah.
and an uncle. So
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and ponder on your relationship with them in this lifetime as a
Mm,
reaction to that lifetime as well. Is there any fear of losing them?
yeah, yeah, interesting. I've got an uncle that I'm very close with. He's only 9 years older than me. So
Mm,
yeah. Mm,
So look into that and see. Yeah,
mm.
good.